We've been running our Daggerheart campaign for several months now, and this past week we ran a one-shot. Set in the same world but a completely different story and a new set of characters, 3 of our campaign players were in the one-shot, and 1 player who had never done a TTRPG before in their life. It was a learning experience from a GM standpoint in terms of how different running a one-shot is from running a campaign. Within the scope of a campaign, you have the luxury of being able to carry story arcs, plots, dialogue, and even combat scenes across several episodes. A one-shot is, by definition, self-contained in one session. Depending on the time that you have at the table, getting through a story could be no problem. In our case, we got started around 6:30 p.m. and had a hard cutoff time of 9:30. For most games, 3 hours is plenty of time. But for a TTRPG, you can get through 3 hours in what feels like about 20 minutes. The difference in prep from a campaign to a one-shot was, for the most part, the same on a mechanical standpoint. I like to start with the setting. Where's our story taking place? And then it evolves into what lore could be there, existing already in the city or the fields. And that helps me flesh out what our story could be. Of course, knowing what your group is, in terms of their ancestry, classes, subclasses, etc., could also help come up with some cool story beats. Writing a one-shot requires exercising plenty of restraint. Of course, there are all kinds of great places your story can go, but if there isn't time to get to it, then it's a waste of creative energy that could be poured into the stuff that you know you want to get to. One thing I realized is that the rate of exposition is much faster and straightforward in a one-shot than in a campaign. You don't have time to withhold vital information in hopes for an epic reveal later on. That point in the story might not even come. You need to get to the action and get to the plot. Allow time for the players to have dialogue and to make choices that will take more time out of your night than you think. I had information spread across 3 or 4 NPCs and 3 different locations, but considering our wrap time and the rate at which we were getting through the story, I decided that all that information would come from just 1 NPC. A very powerful and important one, but just one nonetheless. The result was a much more rewarding dialogue encounter with that NPC, and the player's excitement at getting to the action. Then of course, the combat will take a bulk of the time as well, and that's something you don't want to rush. Some things I like to do to spice up a one-shot is to provide maybe more than one map. We had a map of the city, and a map of each major location. Admittedly, I didn't make them all completely from scratch. For 3D interactive battle maps, I use Dungeon Alchemist, and for everything else, I use Inkarnate, which has an awesome community of available maps as launching points for yours. I also have a printer that can print 24-inch rolls of paper. Even with all of that in mind, we still didn't get to the ending that I had planned. We got to the point in the story that felt like an accomplishment, and it gives us an opportunity to revisit these characters and even allow them to make a cameo in our campaign. Flexibility is key in any successful GMing effort, and is true even more so in a one-shot. Thanks for watching.